This is the third and final part of my project. The future is uncertain and the end is always near. I know you are really excited to hear what I think. So am I. In part two, I asked if we face a crisis of the 21st century, and do our current woes truly reflect the circumstances faced by the Romans? Conditions and technology of today are prodigiously different from the 3rd century and the Roman Empire. So I have employed what I call informed imagination to assess the reflections from that distant mirror. The Roman Empire survived, more or less, intact, and prospered for the next 100 years from the reforms of Diocletian. The empire that emerged with the ascension of Diocletian, as Gibbon put it, was a new empire. It was dominated by the military, and Rome itself had receded into the background. Under Diocletian, the Roman administrative center moved east to Nicomedia. Constantine the Great founded a new Rome in Byzantium, and the Roman Senate became a relic of the past. The goddess Fortuna was kind to the Roman Empire. Survival was not guaranteed. Many other outcomes were possible at the outset of the 3rd century crisis. So the words of Seneca should ring as true for us at the outset of the 21st century as they did for Seneca in 55 BC. O Fortune, who dost bestow the throne's high boon with mocking hand, in dangerous and doubtful state thou settest the too exalted. Never have scepters obtained calm peace or certain tenure. Care on care weighs them down, and ever do fresh storms vex their souls. Great kingdoms sink of their own weight, and fortune gives way neath the burden of herself. So I have to say, yes, that we do face something of a crisis. I don't think I see our imminent demise. We certainly do live in uncertain times, but we don't face calamities yet of the magnitude faced by the 3rd century Romans. But the whole point of this exercise is to gain insight in order to avoid the magnitude of that past calamity. I would also like to return to Professor Friedman's question, why did all this explode in the 3rd century? And I would answer this in part, at least, by saying that external forces and events stressed existing structural flaws in the Roman Empire to the breaking point. This is the termite problem. Termites had been eating at the Roman structure for some time, but termites alone do not cause a structure to collapse. It takes an external force, such as a storm, to bring down the structure. And the empire in the 3rd century was beset by external invaders on a scale that it had not seen before. The structural flaws of the empire started to give way under the stress of these external invasions. And in particular, the problem of succession became acute. Frequent contests between rival emperors added to the devastation wrought by the invaders. And the Roman legions had no real loyalty to the past ideals of Rome, but only to the commanders of the Roman legions and to the donatives. As Yogi Berra said, predictions are hard, especially when they're about the future. So uncertainty means that we don't really know what will happen. And sometimes problems solve themselves, such as when a bridge collapses because it is weakened to a point where it can no longer bear the load. As in the case of Rome, our structural weaknesses are being exposed and stressed, and the coronavirus presents such an external threat. The federal government failed to successfully combat it. The pandemic and its economic disruption, combined with extreme political partisanship, are testing foundations of our democracy. The recent election results are clear, but the president refused to acknowledge defeat and stoke partisanship by falsely claiming the election was rigged. Demonstrations by Trump supporters turned violent. Local and state public officials were targeted and harassed at their offices and homes. Weaknesses in our electoral system have become evident. Without widespread acceptance of the legitimacy of political process, we put ourselves on the road to partisan brawling, and this will devolve into a fight for raw political power. Elections will cease to be a process to solve problems and enhance the well-being of people and the nation, but we will be blinded to the true nature of the threats facing us and robbed of the ability to combat them. And then the structure will fail. It is interesting to note that Gibbon wrote during the American Revolution. He had this to say: "We may easily devise imaginary forms of government in which the scepter shall be constantly bestowed on the most worthy by the free and incorrupt suffrage of the whole community. Experience overturns these airy fabrics." The ghost of Gibbon haunts us today. And I will close with a final thought. Leadership matters. Fortuna is tied to Roman virtues, roughly meaning the strength of character. And the Roman Empire survived because virtues in the end prevailed. The emergence of energetic and capable military leaders and Diocletian's administrative brilliance put the new empire on sound footing for the next millennium. Great American leaders arose in times of our most dire need, with Abraham Lincoln and Franklin Roosevelt as examples. Will we have that kind of leadership when we need it again? The future is uncertain and the end is always near. Fortuna still rules. Let us hope that we can once again sermon American virtues to accompany her.